Hello, and welcome to our webinar entitled Why Investing in This Oklahoma Real Estate Market is a No-Brainer. My name is Hillary Graves of Bright Sound Investments. We generally invest in the Southeast and my home state of Pennsylvania, a little bit in New York, but I have been very excited to diversify into Stillwater, Oklahoma, not just because the market is great, but because this property management company that we're going to be talking to this evening, who we have partnered with, just have such extensive experience in this market and an incredible track record. They don't like to brag, so we will brag for them. But tonight I am joined by my co-hosts, Jay and Tana Boersma, who reside in this market and invest here as well. And Jay and Tana, if you don't mind, could you introduce yourselves?
Yes, hello everyone, and thanks again for being with us. My name is Jay Boersma, and I was born and raised in Stillwater, Oklahoma. Graduated from high school there, graduated from college at Oklahoma State. For the past 30 years, I've been in Arizona. I've been in the real estate business for 30 years, mostly focused on residential lending, but for the last 6 years, we've been transitioning toward multifamily operations and ownership. And so that's me.
Hello, I'm Tana Boersma, and I grew up in Duncan, Oklahoma, which is a small town in the southern part of the state. And I went to school at Oklahoma State University also, which is located in Stillwater. And I'm married to Jay, and so most of our history is similar. We've been living in Arizona for the last 30 years, and we love real estate. We love Stillwater, and we're excited to share it with you today.
Wonderful. Our guests today are C Star Management. And I know I've said this before, but you can have a great market, an awesome market. You can have the best deal of the century. But if you don't have a good property management company managing it, it can still tank. So it's so important to have great management. And this is about as good as you can get. I'm going to just read some of their accolades, brag on their behalf. They've earned Stillwater Property Management Company of the Year by Stillwater News Press, Property Management Company of the Year by Apartment Association of Central Oklahoma, and Family Owned Business of the Year by the Chamber of Commerce. So pretty impressive. And the thing that it really impresses me the most about this team is their track record is incredible. And just the way that they've taken care of investors and certainly taken care of properties and tenants, I think it's second to none. So I would love to hear, what do you do that sets you apart, and how how do you become a property management company that earns these kind of accolades and is just next level compared to everybody else in the field?
Yeah, thanks, Hillary. I appreciate the nice words. I think we're gonna maybe have three different opinions here because we all kind of, from the off-flaggers, we do three different parts of our company. But I work on the management side. I'm the director of management for C Star Management. I believe that we're boots on the ground, and that's what makes the difference for us. Our regional managers are going to be on site every single week. We are going to provide support to our property management staff, our on-site staff, daily, hourly, but for sure weekly, being actually looking at what is happening to your asset. We give hyper focus, have conversations constantly about the market and what we could be doing different. We enjoy testing the market and testing the limits of what it can sustain, and then reporting back to you all so that you guys know exactly what's happening in your market. So that's what I believe sets us apart from everybody else, is our attention to detail and boots on the ground. But I think Barrett might have a different opinion, but I'll let him speak to that.
Yeah, so one of the other things of value we bring is about 25 years ago, Howard decided he was really tired of paying for third-party HVAC and plumbing companies to come over and do preventative maintenance and also new installs and service work. So he came up with the idea to create his own HVAC and plumbing company within C-Star, which is what I run. And our goal is to train the on-site management staff or maintenance staff so that we don't have to come out to your property. Other than that, we want to perform preventative maintenance so that we can create capacity in the summer so that we can handle all the calls that come in our very hot and cold seasons, and to keep on top of everything, show up within 24 hours. We also want to make sure that we don't act like other retail HVAC and plumbing companies, which will come up, they'll find a problem, and then they'll try to upsell you and talk you into, doing 3 other different things. And then they're mainly also focused on installation, and they're going to try to upsell you an entire system. We want to go and fix the problem that's preventing it, not upsell our customers and provide value that way. And then lastly, we also do lots of education. We do lots of seminars and stay up to date on the new EPA processes, the new heat pump systems, the new freons that are coming to market, so we can make sure and get ahead of that and stock up on some items we need, so that we're providing value and not having to incur the extra cost that it comes with the changes.
I'll add a few pointers here and thank you, Hillary, for doing this. Jay, Tana, thank you very much. We appreciate it. And we appreciate the opportunity to talk about our company. We're really proud of it. For me, what makes us different is the longevity of our employees. Our first person ever hired 32 years ago still works for us today. Our regional managers, most of them have been for years and years and years. So we have a great staff that's seen everything, knows most everything. In Oklahoma, typically, if someone calls us and just asks us about a property, we've either managed it or we know about it. We know about its competitors. So we've got our hands pretty much on the market regardless, and pretty much throughout Oklahoma. The turnover is really pretty heavy in multifamily. We just don't have it, and we don't want to participate in it. We want to keep our staff. We pay them well.
That's awesome. And I know you're kind of speaking to this, but I sense that your level of experience, most companies don't have the number of years that you guys have, not to mention your family. So you really are truly invested in the company. But I know that has something to do with the quality of what you do, just having the experience in the market. And speaking of that, you're investors. You're not just managing, you're investing, right? So can you tell us a little bit about how do you identify what is a great property to own, and what's your process for finding properties and taking them down, so to speak?
Hillary, that's for us, that's an interesting question because through the last 32 years, I've never promoted C-Star. I've never went out and asked people for their business. It's always just, I can't tell you actually how many phone calls we do get. Even today, every month we get several calls asking us about different properties. And like I said, we usually know them immediately, but most of our growth has been, sorry, I'm getting off a little bit here, but a little bit of our growth has been from lenders. Lenders bringing us properties, bringing us either properties that they have took back and they want us to take over, or properties that someone is managing and not doing a very good job, and the bank is basically forcing them to hire someone to take over management for someone that's failing. But it's location, number one. And then number two, to be honest, it's really about your owner. Your management company can only be as good as your owner. And if your owner's not willing to put money back in the property, for instance, and they're just trying to just slowly bring this property along, they're going to lose their property. So I'm gonna stick with the owners is probably one of the bigger things. There's a lot of people, believe it or not, there's a lot of people that we won't manage their property because of them, and it's usually not because they're a bad person or anything like that. It's just because we have a difference of opinion. We think you've got to keep your property up and put money back into it, and a lot of owners think they need to take everything they can out of the property and then in 5 years flip it. Well, that doesn't work very well. You've got to put your money back in the property, and then you can flip a property or do what you want to do long term. Either way.
I want to ask this question of C-Star also, and any of you can answer this. What do you think is more important, a great deal on a property, and this is, if you could answer this from the perspective of the owner, what's more important, a great deal on a property or being in partnership with a great property management company?
If you have a great property without a good management company, you're not gonna have a great property for very much longer. So that's just as simple as I can make it.
Simply said.
Backing up and looking at the questions, and there was another one too, which you can jump in with, which was, can you talk about your track record and some of your successes?
Yeah, I'll talk about it for Howard in general. So a lot of successes. I mean, we talk about the Oklahoma market in general right now, where specifically in Stillwater, we're at 97% occupancy across the board with our portfolio, which consists of roughly about 1,400 units just here in Stillwater alone. We have about 3,000 units, a little over that right now in general, and our portfolio occupancy is at 94% as of Friday of this last week. So our track record, I think, will speak for itself, with also low delinquency percentage on your properties, and then just low operating expenses as well, just across the board. And then from more of an investing standpoint, Howard here, in conjunction with C-Star, bought property in Tulsa, recognized a market that was in need of something. So he bought a piece of property in downtown Tulsa in 2014, I believe. We started new construction in 2016, finished by 2018, built an A-class property in downtown Tulsa. He sold that property in 2022 and set the record in Oklahoma for a per door price. So we think we have a really good track record of identifying markets that need supply, that definitely have not met the demand that's been asked of them at that time. And we think that, we think we're really good at identifying those, and then not just identifying them, but getting the most out of them at the same time.
I make a quick comment about their track record.
Yeah.
So Jay and I have some properties in Stillwater and in Edmond that C-Star manages, and Jay might talk about this a little bit more. C-Star manages those properties for us, and they do an amazing job. Like, we've really enjoyed working with them. They are easy to work with. They're very smart. They're very aware of everything that's going on. So, it's one thing to hear them talk about their track record, but when you have actual clients that have experienced what they're talking about, then I think it just speaks volumes, and our partners really appreciate them and we appreciate them. So it's been really fun.
So yeah, why Stillwater? Well, the market in Stillwater is thriving. We've been increasing rents on nearly a quarterly basis on most properties. But one of the reasons why is probably what you would want to know is we have a growing college here in town that is our major employer and really the major economic drive to the town of Stillwater. And for the past few years, we've seen record freshman classes come in. Well, the reason that matters is because Oklahoma State doesn't have enough housing, on-campus housing, to be able to house all of those incoming freshmen. So they are getting pushed out into the conventional housing market here in Stillwater. So not just the conventional housing, but also third party outside of Oklahoma State University student housing as well. Now, we've seen just a major influx of renters as well here in Stillwater. So our housing market, while you might look and say, hey, Stillwater's not that big of a town, our housing market is comparable to the big cities in Oklahoma as well. So by price per square foot in the housing market, you're looking at roughly the same that you would see in Oklahoma City and Tulsa. And that's important because Stillwater's income is not as high as those areas. So we actually have more renter base here than what you would see in the bigger cities. So Stillwater's market is booming. Like I said earlier, we're 97% occupied across our portfolio. And there's nothing more in Stillwater on the cusp of being built here at this time. So there's nothing on the docket within the next 18 months that is coming on board as far as new construction. So what we have here now is the supply that we're going to have for a minimum of the next 18 months, if not longer.
And just to piggyback on that, yesterday or Friday, I was involved in an economic summit. We had a whole bunch of economists and employment and people that work in the employment industry for Oklahoma. And they went over Oklahoma and Stillwater. And just on a broad picture, Oklahoma is on the upper end of growth in the United States. And Stillwater is in the upper end and all those metrics in Oklahoma. And all the economists don't think that's going to change. And one of the things that he did identify as a need for Stillwater was new housing, because we don't have the multifamily properties right now that some of those upper class renters can rent. And so what his recommendation was to kind of do what we were doing and go into some of these properties, spend money, bring up the value so that we can attract some of those more renters, because there's not that supply in Stillwater right now.
Although we don't really promote we don't have student housing, just in C-Star, we don't have student housing. And years ago, when there was a lot of student housing that was built here, and so we made a decision to shift from mostly students to more conventional residents, and it's really helped us where we're staying full in the summer months as well as the school year. We used to drop to like 50% in June and July and then bump back up. But just to give you a little idea of the market in Stillwater really quickly, is this year Oklahoma State was giving students a $1,000 credit and a food pass where they could get food for all year to students that would move off of campus. So we require freshmen to live on campus. If they didn't have enough room it was so drastic that they gave these incentives just for people not to live on OSU property. So that tells you pretty much how strong the market is here in Stillwater.
Right. And so that's not Stillwater's biggest reason for demand, but it just adds to the demand that was already there when you've got students looking for housing outside of Oklahoma State. That's cool. So Jay, I am going to have you touch on these points, if you wouldn't mind, a little bit more about Stillwater and what makes it so attractive.
Yeah, so when I talk about Stillwater, I really like to think about it in the bigger context of Payne County, but then also where Payne County is in Oklahoma in relationship to the two large MSAs, Oklahoma City and Tulsa. So Payne County's got about 100,000 people now. A little bit less than 30,000 of those people are students at Oklahoma State, but there's several other towns, and Stillwater is the hub of Payne County. So people that live in these other small towns around Stillwater come to Stillwater on a daily basis. Stillwater is adjacent to one county in the Oklahoma City MSA. It's also adjacent to a county in the Tulsa MSA. It sits about 45 miles northeast of the northernmost Oklahoma City suburb and about 50 miles west of the westernmost Tulsa suburb. So it's very proximate, and there's a dynamic there where people are living in Stillwater and working in one of the cities, or they're living in the cities or working in the cities. They're living and working in both places, and vice versa is what I'm trying to say. Also, what happens in Stillwater is that people come to Oklahoma State from around the state and they fall in love with Stillwater. There's a certain lifestyle there. There's a culture. Because of the university, there are things to do from a cultural, athletics, and educational standpoint that really you could also get those things in the big cities. And so it's got some of the same positive attributes while much less crime and just a slower pace of life, just a more friendly, more enjoyable pace of life. So you've got people that come to Oklahoma State and then stay in Stillwater. As far as job growth and what is driving Stillwater, Oklahoma State again is the driving engine. But what that has done, especially recently, is spun off a lot of business that maybe was supported through grants by Oklahoma State. For example, there's probably, I don't know how many patents there are, but there's a lot of agricultural patents where technological and agriculture combined have created companies that are worth hundreds of millions of dollars that are located in and around Stillwater. And those are companies that are doing international business. So with respect to Stillwater, it's also the medical hub of north central Oklahoma. I've got family members who live 65 miles north of Stillwater who choose to come to Stillwater to do medical related things instead of driving 75 miles north of where they live, going to Wichita, which is an 800,000 population MSA. So they'd rather come. So north central Oklahoma comes to Stillwater for medical. Also cultural. So there's a newly built McKnight Center at Oklahoma State that hosts all kinds of arts, including, for example, the New York Philharmonic has been to Stillwater twice in the last 3 years, and all sorts of other artists from Yo-Yo Ma to Garth Brooks have been in Stillwater in the last 3 years. So it's an exciting place. It's a draw for the area in all those ways. And it's also stable job growth in Stillwater and in Oklahoma versus some of the other parts of the country where you've got a lot more volatile growth, maybe faster growth during some times of the real estate cycle, but then growth that precipitates overdevelopment, which then leads to rent rate reductions because of too much supply. That doesn't happen in Stillwater. So it's the little engine that could, it's the little engine that generates 2, 3, 4% rent rate growth on an annual basis.
This is a case study of a deal that you currently own. I would just love to hear you talk through this a little bit. This is an example of what we're talking about in the market that you purchased not too long ago. I would love to hear how it's going and just talk us through the numbers a little bit.
All right, so this is a property that Tana and I and our company, Neighborhood Capital Resources, bought with some other general and limited partners a little less than 3 years ago. C-Star and specifically Seth have managed this property, and the business plan for this property was to invest somewhere between $12,000 and $14,000 in renovating the interiors and to ultimately raise the rent in the property by somewhere between $250 to $300 a month on average. And what we ended up doing in this property is achieving our net operating income numbers in the second year that exceeded what we had originally projected to do in the 5th year. So it's been a great success. It's how we've gotten to know C-Star. And we've also, because we've exceeded our projections, we've been meeting our preferred returns to our investors. And in the last year, we've actually exceeded preferred returns to the extent that on a cash-on-cash basis, we've returned and distributed right around 9% in the last 4 quarters to our investors.
Yeah, that's incredible. Well, good job. That's
Thanks.
awesome. And that's why I'm joining you guys. That's it.
Right on.
That is it. And I wanted to mention this, that this is not obviously a deal specific webinar, but we do have something coming up in this market. We have something for investors coming up. And if you are on our investor list, we will be sending it to you shortly. But does anyone else want to comment something as we close?
I think Stillwater market is about the best it's been, to be honest. So from somebody that's been specifically managing property for the last 15 years here myself, but obviously someone next to me that's been here for doing it for his whole life, and then my brother that's been alongside me. I have never seen the market this strong. So it is an awesome time in Stillwater. It's a lot of fun. The town's growing. And I think there's going to be a lot of opportunities here.
We do need a few more football wins, though. That would help us out a lot. Hillary, I went to the Tina Turner musical here at the McKnight Center just the other night. I thought of you when I went.
Cool. I've heard about that, but I have not seen it. I don't know if we're going to agree on the football though, because I'm go Penn State all the way. Um, but everybody who's here, thank you for joining us so much. And if you're just watching the recording, thank you. Thank you for checking it out. As we said, it's an exciting time to be investing in this market of Stillwater, Oklahoma. And I'm very grateful for our guests, C-Star Management, for talking us through it today, and for my co-hosts, Jay and Tana. Thank you for joining me. And thank you, everybody. We will be in touch with you soon, and have a good one.